Hey, what's up, guys? Anthony here. Just Anthony. Jake and Cody aren't here. They didn't go to Brooklyn Comic-Con. I went to Brooklyn Comic-Con last week. I had a chance to talk to Ming Chen, who you might know from AMC's Comic Book Men. And I also talked to Debra Wilson, who you might know from MadTV or Asir Junda in Star Wars Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order. It was a great time. Check it out. Hey, everybody. What's up? It's Anthony from Comics and Chronic. I'm here with Ming Chen. He's from Comic Book Men. He's got a podcast, I Sell Comics.
Yeah, I go to cons, I got studios. We're taking over the pop culture world, my friends.
Yes.
So, yes, one podcast at a time, one joint at a time.
There we go. And you were just telling me about a shared universe that you have in Jersey. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Shared Universe is a trio of podcast studios that I built and operate in the New Jersey area. So basically what it is, it's a recording studio, but it's just for podcasting, live streaming, and content creation. So no music, we don't cut tracks there. We make people big via podcasts. So people rent out by the hour, and we teach classes. It's pretty cool. I took a page out of Kevin Smith's book, which is, it's like, hey, find out what you love doing.
Yeah.
Show everybody how much you love it. Spread the love, and then see if you can make a living doing it. And that's what I'm doing.
I really love that. I mean, as a podcaster, I know that it could be hard to get your podcast off the ground, and that's a great opportunity for podcasters. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I started out being Kevin's tech guy, right? I would press the buttons, get his podcast online, editing. I'm like, wait, I can do this for everybody else too, right? So, and
Cody and Jake, that's how I feel.
But I also realize there's a very large population. They don't want to deal with all that, microphones, mixing boards, RSS feeds, like none of that. We take care of all that for them. So yeah, it's fun, and this is fun, right? How fun is it?
It's so fun to podcast. I mean, I get opportunities like this. I don't know if I'd get a chance to talk to you otherwise. Well, if I came here, you seem like a friendly guy. I think we could just talk, and we're already having good conversations before this. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you could literally create your own show called Comics and Chronic.
Comics and Chronic, yeah.
and it works. It's awesome. I know a guy who loves both, and he's kind of gotten me to love both as well.
Nice.
Kevin Smith. So yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I was gonna ask, do you have a relationship with weed, and does it connect to comic books in any way for you?
So for the longest time, people were like, oh man, Kevin smokes. Like, do you smoke? I'm like, if I'm around him, I don't need to. There was so much, seriously, there's so much secondhand smoke in whatever room we were hanging out in, and usually we've been there for a few hours. I literally got, and he smoked really good weed. So,
nice.
So secondhand, I got to smoke really good weed. So his advocacy really going like, oh, okay,
absolutely.
This is pretty cool. Prior to that, I never really did it at all. I started, I was like, oh, this might be cool. Started taking hits. My friends blazed up. It's like, okay, wait, where's my anxiety? It all disappeared. It was pretty cool. And then I finally was like, wow, this really makes me sleep really well.
Yes.
I don't really sleep that much. And, it was hard getting just a full night's sleep.
Same way, yeah.
5-10 milligram edible. Done.
You're out like a light.
Yeah, so I'm particular to a brand called Kiva Confections.
Kiva, ooh, I love Kiva.
Yeah,
yes,
they make a gummy tin called Camino, which everything. I love everything about it, from the design of the tin to the gummies they make. Yeah, it's brilliant. So shout out to Camino for sure.
Nice, gotta eat those.
I think my favorite weed story though is I was at this mansion party in Utah, and I got to smoke with Urkel and Joey Fatone from NSYNC. So yeah, it was fun.
Dream blunt rotation is what we'd call that.
That was pretty cool. I remember the hottest boy bands in the 90s, and a guy from one of the hottest TV shows from the 90s.
And Urkel has his own weed now, right? Or edibles?
Yeah, it was called Purple Urkel or something.
Urkel, yeah.
Yeah, I got to try that, man. I'm sure it'll blow our minds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's awesome. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll ask you one more question. What are you reading now, or can you recommend a book that is just on the shelf that you really like?
I can, and they're actually here. So, everyone asks Marvel, DC. I'm like, dude, go for the independents, man.
Yes.
Everyone's, read Marvel and DC to death. We know all the characters, right? As of now, they're just writing books to make movies. Yeah. Let's be honest. So you got to go to the independents. A row for me, there's a publisher called Blue Juice Comics.
Okay.
They have a book called The Accelerators.
Gotta go check that out.
Yeah, it's about a bunch of time travelers, but they can only go forward in time. They can't go back.
Ooh,
so wackiness ensues. They're amazing. And nepotism, they're all friends of mine. But what they've done, when I met them, they had barely read a comic. we influence them to the point where they're like, hey, I think we want to make our own comics.
Yeah.
So, they put together a team, writer, artists,
Nice.
marketing, all that. And they're a legit company now, and they're here at Brooklyn Comic Con. So definitely check them out.
Yeah.
Blue Juice Comics, named after the blue milk from Star Wars. So.
Oh, ooh, okay. That's interesting. Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Ming, it's great talking to you. Any chance we could get you on the pod any of these days?
Oh, yeah. I'll get on your pod, and then you got to come down to the studio, and we'll record an episode there.
Ooh, I would love to do that, yeah.
Okay.
Ming, it was so great to meet you. So great to talk to you. All right,
too.
Comics and Chronic and Ming Chen. See you later at Brooklyn Comic Con. Hey, we're here at Brooklyn Comic Con. It's Anthony from Comics and Chronic. I am here with Debra Wilson. You might know her from MadTV. You might know her from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And we're here together at Brooklyn Comic Con. Welcome.
Thank you.
So obviously a lot of us who listen to the podcast, my co-host Jake, we grew up on MadTV. It was we're all comedians in some way. We have a stand-up comedian, Cody. I write sketch comedy, so obviously MadTV was a huge inspiration. Lately, I haven't seen you do too much comedy. Have you given up on comedy, or is it something that you're focusing more on your dramatic work?
You know what? When it comes to that, most people think it's comedy, like you have one thing that you do. You may be known for something, and it may be out there in the world as this one thing, but I've always been doing a lot of different things, and some things that I've done in the past are now coming to the forefront, especially when it comes to voiceovers. I mean, with MadTV, I did a lot of the voiceovers, the parodies, that kind of a thing, commercial parodies, and the music and stuff like that. And so that now is really coming to the forefront. So comedy is never lost on me. You never lose what's already in you. You don't lose that. And in terms of the business and the work, this is just the flow. And it's not like I asked for it. This is just the way the world is flowing for me. And I found that it was the most symbiotic space for creativity without having to wonder with what I looked like and how I showed up. And it gave me the opportunity to continue to build characters and work on characters at the same time, to do iconic characters in the Marvel universe, in the Star Wars universe, in the DC universe. I mean, it's given me and afforded me opportunity, even with Disney. I mean, I'm the first woman of color to voice Daisy Duck, and the sixth in line at Disney in general to voice the character of Daisy Duck. So, I mean, the opportunity has been overwhelmingly amazing, and that's the space that I find myself in. So I'm not giving up anything else. I just find that this is the space that really is way of an open world for me.
And that's incredible because, I mean, obviously watching you online just now, you could turn it on so fast and you're doing a million different characters. You could sing. You're just super talented, and watching you like growing up, that was a huge inspiration. I have to admit that because, I mean, every Saturday night I see you on my TV, and now I still see you doing big things. Where does your journey begin? Did you have a goal in mind when you were first starting out as an actress?
I had no goals because I never took it seriously. So this wasn't a business that was business oriented for me. More than anything else, it was, how can I create and how can I be in that space? Because when you're a kid and you're doing it, you don't need money. You're not asking for money. You don't need a stage. You don't need a manager. You don't need an agent or an agency. You don't need picture and resumes. You don't need to knock on doors. You don't need to audition. It was a matter of, I'm having fun and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And I don't think there's any reason for me to lose that, even though, you go through the rigmarole of the business as an industry. And for me, when I'm with people and I can turn it on, it's because I love people. It really is pure and simple. There's nothing more complicated than that.
And I could feel that. I think everyone in this room could feel that. That's incredible. Okay, we're Comics and Chronic. So a question I have to ask, are you a stoner? What's your relationship with weed, if at all?
I don't smoke. And I remember the first time I got really, really high because I was doing a convention for High Times magazine. They were doing an award show. And of course, the venue was toke it up. And everyone was smoking. Everyone was blazing it up. And I got high as a kite. And I saw this poodle go by. We were in Malibu, California, and I started laughing my head off because all I saw was a giant tampon. And I could not stop laughing. It was this white, fluffy poodle. And I was like, what is going on? And it was that way the whole time. And everybody was hugging and loving. And I'm already that. So now, it's more that. It's 10 times more that. And it was like, this is amazing. It was just absolutely fantastic. I had a little bit of a headache afterwards, but the headache was worth it for what I walked away with. And I've always liked the smell of weed.
Okay.
For me, it might as well be incense because I can't stand the smell of cigarettes. It makes me nauseous.
Yeah.
But weed is one of those things where, when I smell, and I can smell weed on a dime. I could smell weed on a dime. So I love the smell of weed. So even though I don't smoke, and I have smoked, not just not inhaled,
Right.
I have smoked, and I've enjoyed it each time, but it's not something that I stick with because I've never really found a purpose for it beyond, the recreational stuff that other people do. It's like, yes, you enjoy it and I'll vicariously imbibe by watching you and I'll take it in, but I don't need to buy it. There's nothing with me that brings that in there because I've just been too busy working and creating and all these things that are already in my head, all that space that I'm trying to fill with what ifs and what ifs and what ifs, I get a chance to do that in voiceover.
I like that a lot. See, we talk to a lot of creators and artists who say, some of them say they use weed to help them with their art, but you're saying the opposite, which is cool because I think you have a lot of energy that I think maybe it's not stoner energy. Like, I don't know if I could ever put, like, you're on 11, and I mean that in the best way possible. I don't know if I was stoned, I'd be able to go to 11. So I could totally see that, like, and it fits your vibe. I think the energy that you bring that I've seen in all your roles is just so unique. Are you a naturally energetic person? Is there like something you use to like hype yourself up for events like this?
I'm always like this. And it's interesting because I've always been like that as a kid. So it's driven in my personality. And I don't know if I've been diagnosed as being a hyperactive child or not, but the way I speak and the way I act and the way I turn it on very quickly, it's always in me. It's just, I love people. And when you love something and you're enthusiastic, I think it boosts your energy. So I can go on for hours and hours and hours and hours without stopping because the love and the energy is there. And the more I get fed that energy, the more I'm giving it back. Afterwards, I'm exhausted, of course, and I need that time to quiet down and be in a space where there is no noise. But when I'm in that space, it's 110 or go home. It's show up or show up and then show out. There's no point in showing up unless you're going to show out.
I like that. I need to adopt that philosophy. Okay, so you right before this, you were just telling me you have a lot of tarantulas?
I'm a tarantula keeper. I have 12 different species of tarantula. Yeah.
And what started that? Have you loved them your whole life? Was there like some event that you're like, I need a tarantula?
Fear, abject terror. I was always afraid of them, and then someone put one on me. And the one thing they told me about if they fall from a great height, their abdomens can burst and it can kill them. So I had one put on me, and I freaked out, but I held still, and it normally they stop on your hand, but this one, there was a breeze near the door, and what happens is they're urticating hairs, and the hairs on their legs and stuff, they sense it's danger, and so they keep moving, and this one didn't know, and it fell, and the first thing I did is I went to scoop it up, thinking that I injured it or I killed it. So the fear was completely 100% replaced with care, and I realized that, wait a minute, then that fear didn't belong to me. It was a societal thing. It was things I read. It was people who told me that, they can do this, and watching nature shows in which I'm paying attention to the danger of them instead of the beauty of them. And I went home in that state of, I held one and I cared for it. So now my mind it's clicked into holding and care. And so I started with one, and I started doing my research on the ones that are docile and where they came from and their colors and their sizes, the male, the female. And I fell in love. And each time I learned more, I wanted another one. And each time I learned something else, I wanted another one. And I ended up with 12 species of tarantula, and I love them.
That's incredible. I mean, these guys know I'm not like an animal person in the sense that I'm just like afraid of a lot of stupid stuff. Like I grew up in the Bronx, never encountered a tarantula, obviously. Like it's just squirrels and like dogs and cats. So I can't even imagine having a tarantula. I feel the fear. I don't even know if I would let one go on my arm. I don't know.
You could do it, and I've watched other people do it. It's interesting because once I got rid of that fear and I realized I'm replacing the fear with something else, that's what you have to do with people. You replace the fear, or you allow them to replace the fear, because you don't have to hold it, you don't have to have one. But if I give you more education and more information on them and how delicate they are, and that really they're not out to hurt anybody, and that you have a power over them much greater than the power they held over you, then a lot of times you will go, all right, let me try this. I may not want to do it again, but I know more, and the more I'm educated and informed, the less afraid I am.
Nice. So are you the kind of person that like, okay, with tarantulas or with any subject, you just want to dive deeply into that subject?
I always do. In fact, I think the deepest dive I've ever done is taken into the characters of all that I do. And it doesn't matter how light they are. It could be a Disney character, or it could be one that holds a lot of gravity, like Gryla from God of War Ragnarok. And it's always about a deep dive because they're one-dimensional, and you're using your body and everything that you are, including your emotions, to tell their story. You're giving them permission to be alive by using your body and your mind and your heart and everything else. So you have to do a deep dive, especially into your painful places.
Is there, okay, so we're talking about, you said Marvel, DC, Disney. Is there a character or a comic book character? Star Wars, of course, yes.
Lucasfilm stuff, yeah.
Is there a character that you think you would just absolutely kill in a role that you haven't had yet, that maybe like you've read about, or that would fit in any of the universes that...
No, because you know what? I've gotten so many opportunities. I mean, I'm kind of having this great span in what I'm doing at this moment, because on one end of the spectrum, you know, I'm the sixth Daisy Duck for Disney, and I am the first woman of color to voice Daisy Duck. That's number one. And on the other end, I'm Amanda Waller in 3 to 4 different projects, including Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, coming out by Rocksteady Games next year. I've been in the Star Wars universe with Seer Junda from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but not only that, in the Oculus experience in Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, I am a villainous creature named Tararashin. So, you know, I've kind of, and then in Star Wars, The Last Jedi, when they go to the planet, and they see this little creature, and C-3PO is the interpreter and asks Rey about her people and gives her a necklace. I did the voice of that one, and her name is Nambigima. And a friend of mine went to go see it and said, you know, you're in the main credits. And I thought I was doing ADR and looping. And I said, no, I'm not. I was with a loop troupe, and I looped stuff. They go, no, you're in the main credits. You have a character named Nambigima. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So Ryan Johnson, who directed that, actually asked me, he said, I'm looking for a voice for this creature. And so again, here I get a chance to have that deep dive, and it doesn't matter if it's one scene or not. It's a deep dive into asking Rey and talking to Rey, and then coming up with a language that welcomes her and is curious about her, and what kind of inflections and tones I can use to be in this space, in this moment, in this joy, in this, and taking all of that energy and information and coming up with a language on the fly as we're actually doing it. And he said, that's it. So to span everything, I'm just grateful in the space that I am. I don't think there's anything that I'm Storm in X-Men, which is a mobile game.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of, hit those universes that I've wanted to. I've also Okoye in Telltale.
Guardians of the Galaxy? No,
not Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's also a video game. And it's done like cartoon, it's done like comic book animation. And it is, what do we call it? The War for Wakanda.
Oh, is that not out yet? Is that something?
I don't know if it's out yet, but I assume that it is, because believe it or not, I don't play games. Go figure. But it should be, it's called, I don't know if it's Telltale, The War for Wakanda, but it's called The War for Wakanda, and I do Okoye. And I've done Okoye also for other things as well.
Okay,
yeah.
That's really cool.
So I'm just grateful. I mean, I'm having this amazing whirlwind opportunity to play in the park, and told you don't have to go home.
That's really cool. So growing up, or just when it came out, Star Wars, were you into it? Do you have any like background with it, or with these characters, you're just bringing your own thing? Like you're not really like too deep into the universes?
First of all, with what I do, we're talking about generations from what George Lucas had envisioned, and it's become something massive. And then when Disney took it over, it became that much more massive. But like Star Trek, it is its own universe, its own world. It has a place in the universe that is iconic and present, that will never, ever, ever go away. And it means so much to so many people on such a personal and intimate level that it has that effect, like the Star Trek universe. And so for me, when I saw it in 1977, it's the first time when I saw Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, I said, I want to be in this business. I want to be in this business. And what the interesting thing was, the emotional and spiritual stuff that I felt was about my own personal journey, but not the journey of work. So I had no idea what it meant when I said, I'm going to be in this business. I just knew that if I can connect what I feel right now in this moment and about this character's journey, and I feel like I am akin to that, and tied to that journey, that it somehow is my journey, that means I'm tied to that business. I just didn't know what it meant. I never thought acting or star or movies. I just knew. And then in the 80s, I saw Whoopi Goldberg's one-woman show on HBO. It was on Broadway at the time, and then HBO shot it and put it on their network at the time. And when I saw her, I'd never seen anyone like her doing what she did with all these characters. And that's the second time I said, the first time I said, I'm going to be in this business. So Star Wars and Mark Hamill said, I'm going to be in this business. Seeing Whoopi Goldberg, an image of a black woman, being all these characters and doing all these things. It was the first time I said, I'm going to be in this business. I want to be in this business, and I'm going to be in this business. And those two collided. And it's been the Force ever since. I used the Force to will Mark Hamill into my life. And I ended up working with Whoopi Goldberg. The first time it was supposed to happen, and then it did not happen, and yet it came back around in a way in which, before I was even in the industry, I had dreams of her after seeing her one-woman show. And the dreams happened the moment I got MadTV and moved to LA. The dream, I stepped into the dream and I said, so it wasn't just a dream, it was a prophecy. So I know, for me, what I believe in, I know it was the Force. I know it was the Force.
So that's funny because when you say you willed Mark Hamill into your life, I remember a sketch on MadTV where he maybe it was his only appearance on the show, but you're in it with him. Phil Lamar's in
Dirty
it, right?
Walker,
Yes.
Funky talker, dirty.
Yes.
And here's what happened, and I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. Once I saw Star Wars, Mark Hamill, I knew that energy. I said the whole sacrifice and care, loss, all of those things, it felt like a kinship to me and what would happen to me. And it happened, literally, all of those things in that particular order. And so I was I'm from New York originally, and I was working for Parks and Recreation, City of New York Parks and Recreation. And I would go into the city often, and I would go to a comic book store that I knew that he would always frequent because I know he loved comics. Yeah. And he was never around. And I would always pass Broadway where he was doing the Elephant Man on Broadway. And I would look up the large poster and I'm like, I got to meet him one day. I just got to meet him one day. He was at the Warner Brothers studio store in Manhattan on 57th Street at the time. He was signing posters and meeting and greeting for Warner Brothers as the Joker.
Ooh, wow, okay.
For Batman, the animated series. And he was the Joker. And so the only way in to get in line was to buy a large animated still of the Joker and Harley Quinn, okay. And then he would sign it. And at the time, it was a lot of money for me working the job that I had, but I was like, I'm doing this. Yeah. And my boss was like, you can't leave in the middle of the day and not come back. I said, this is a part of a destiny. You're not going to understand it. This is okay that you don't understand it. If you need to, I was so serious. I said, if you need to let me go, I respect you for it. I respect you for it, but I'm going to go and do this. And he was like, yeah, okay, well, come back tomorrow. You're going to extra. And I was like, okay, but I knew I was going. And then I got in line. I finally got to the front, and I couldn't breathe. And I was like, because Star Wars, and I was told by security, and I was told by the Warner Brothers people, do not mention Star Wars. This is not Lucasfilm. Warner Brothers. Do not give him anything to sign that's Star Wars. Do not talk to him about Star Wars. Do not mention anything about Luke Skywalker. That not Lucasfilm. This is all Warner Brothers. So walked up, Star Wars, Mark Hamill, Luke, George, Lucas. Luke Skywalker, and I started hyperventilating because I couldn't get it out, and I started to get dizzy. I started to get sick, and so I walked up to him, and I was trying to spout out all this Star Wars, George Lucas, the Force, and he calmed me down. He was like, "Okay, calm down," because he saw I couldn't breathe, and I started hyperventilating. He sat me down. He said, okay, someone get her water. Got me water. And he calmed me down. He started talking to me just to bring me down. Just
like a human connection.
Like a human connection. What's your name? What do you do? At the time, I was doing some improv, just fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm doing improv, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, really? That's really cool. I love sketch comedy and I love improv too. Nice. Maybe one day we'll work together. And I got serious and I said, don't patronize me. Because I'm very serious, I can use the Force. There is something that is a force pull within this connection. And yes, I was trying to find you, but there's a force pull in this connection. And I just wanted to let you know that. And I don't know what it means. And I don't know where it's gonna go. But now that you've made it an objective thing or a subjective thing by saying the Force, I can actually allow the Force to pull us together. I had no idea that MadTV would happen. It wasn't even on the radar. So, years later, audition for MadTV, book it. Move to LA. Hey, you guys, can we get Mark Hamill on the show? His people, no. It's not Saturday Night Live. It'll do nothing for his career. This is just a young upstart of a sketch comedy show. It's not Saturday Night Live. Okay. Now, force pull to cast member, an amazing human being, Phil Lamar, who's also into comic books, who said, you know that Mark Hamill is signing his new comic, The Black Pearl, his comic, The Black Pearl, on Dark Horse Comic Books. He's signing it at Universal City Walk in LA and Hollywood. No, I didn't know that. Okay. Now, prior to that, I was on a talk show, still on the circuit to promote MadTV. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that I talk about Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. They use that for pre-information, and they tried to get him on the show. He couldn't do it. So what they were going to do is have him do a call-in. It didn't work. So they went to his home, and he signed a Star Wars Monopoly set, Forcefully Yours, Mark Hamill.
Oh, my God.
Because he said, I like that show. I love that show. Yeah. Are you kidding me? I like Debra Wilson. Sure. Not knowing. He signed it, gave it to me. So now we're moving closer and closer. His people say no. So even though we were getting close, his people said no. So what I wanted to do was go up to Universal City Walk and tell him, hey, this is our connection. And I'm that girl from New York. I get up there, he pulls out a comic, he looks up and goes, Debra Wilson. We start having a conversation. I said, too bad you didn't want to do the show. I'm so sorry you turned it down. That would have been our opportunity. He says, what are you talking about? I said, your people said no. He says, I never got that information. Here's my personal information. Call me and then keep it. Have your producers call me. I'm doing the show. That's how it all happened. So finally, no, it's very credible. So what ended up happening, here we are. He's on one side. I'm on the other. There is a live audience, and A.J. Johnson, the floor manager, goes, all right, everybody, and here we go, and quiet down, settle down. In 3, 2, you never say 1 or 0. And in those quiet moments, everything came flooding in. The moment I met him, the moment of 1977 going, I want to be in this business, I'm going to be in this business. Having this come to reality was overwhelming at that point, and the audience just heard this. Stop, clean Debra up. Because he was on the other side, Mark Hamill was on the other side. We were about to go, and he's like... And he remembered when I went up there, Universal, he's like, oh my God, the girl who was crying. Yes. Oh my God. And I said, there you go. And even though the dark forces of his management tried to stop it, force happened all through Phil Lamar to going up to Universal, to him saying, I never got that information, and to him saying yes. So there's the force for you.
I'm getting chills just listening to that story, seriously. Yeah, wow. I mean, I don't even want to compare it this way, but just like I said, watching you on TV growing up and getting to meet you right here, I'm not saying there's like some force connection, but just this moment is so surreal.
Maybe there is. Maybe. Maybe there is. We never know. See, and we don't want to refute anything. We just want to allow. And the more we allow, we will recognize that the force is with us always.
I love that. Debra Wilson, everybody. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is the newest game. You could check it out. Seer Junda.
Yes, Seer Junda. And God of War Ragnarok.
Ooh, yes.
As Gryla. And it just came out, Diablo 4. I am also in Diablo 4. And next year, I am also Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad. Kill the Justice League.
I'll be looking out for that. I'm sure everyone listening and watching will be looking out for that. Debra, thank you so much for doing this. This was an incredible time.
Thank you.
Or credible time.
A very credible time.
Yes.
Thank you. You're learning. You're learning quick from me.
Thank you.
Now put a baby in me.
Oh, okay. This is my wife, by the way.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jacob H.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Comics and Chronic. That's Comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.